I'm Kay Bess, and this is the Beehive. Women in Voiceover, the voices of the fairer sex that keep the wheels of commerce and creativity moving in this country. Voices you hear every day, but names you likely don't know until now. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Beehive. Before we get started, I want to tell you that I'm using this brand new interface called IPDTL, which allows me to call and converse with people all over the country. So it is indeed morning here in Los Angeles, and my guest today in the Beehive is in Minneapolis, Minnesota, where it is almost afternoon. She is Celia Siegel, who is a voiceover talent manager and branding and marketing expert. Welcome to the Beehive, Celia.
Thanks for having me, K-Bass.
Yeah, I'm so happy to have you. It's great. You're my first non-voice actor guest, which is just awesome. So you're going to give us some new and different insights than what we've gotten heretofore. So because what you do is rather multifaceted, I want to make sure that listeners get it straight from you instead of garbled by me. So tell us what it is that you do in the world of voiceover.
Well, I have been in the world of voiceover for, like 28 years now. And I started out as a talent agent.
When you were 10.
When I was 10 years old. It was actually my first job out of college. And I was like, oh, this is it. And I'm moving to LA and so I just love the voiceover industry. I opened a management company about 14 years ago and took sort of my contacts and my knowledge of the industry, and I began managing a small pool of talent and just doing all of my favorite things that I see help talent's success. Mm-hmm. And kind of the number one thing on that list for me is branding and marketing. So I'm sort of a combo of talent management and an advertising agency for talent doing their branding and their marketing work. So that's kind of the short version of my services.
Marketing is so huge, especially now that the voiceover world has changed so dramatically in the last 20 years. And I know you have experienced this too, because you started working at a talent agency, and voiceover used to just be sort of about Los Angeles, New York, and Chicago. And with the advent of the internet, with the advent of voicebank.net, voiceover has become open to everyone, anywhere, with a great microphone and an internet connection.
Exactly. No, it's such an interesting time. And, even back when I started doing this, it wasn't really even just about LA, New York, Chicago, because Austin, Texas, Minneapolis. I mean, there's these Atlanta, Georgia. There are fabulous ad agencies in
Yes.
all of these cities. So there was an ensemble cast of voiceover actors, who were really, came from on camera and, who were actors who did all of the voiceover work because
Right.
there wasn't even a fax machine yet, so all of these huge advertising agencies, they would like bicycle messenger over copy.
Right.
It would be read, it would be bicycle messengered back, and they would choose locally, so it was very exciting because people in, these mid-sized cities had access to these big ad agencies and these big union ad campaigns and thus these huge careers. Now that doesn't happen. So people really complain about that in LA, the work leaves LA.
Right.
In New York, it's all a big melting pot now.
Oh, that's so interesting, because I always had this impression that all the national network kinds of commercial work all came out of those three major cities. I do know that, places like Austin and Minneapolis. And, that there certainly was voiceover work there to be had. But I just had this sort of myopic view about, well, it's just LA, New York, Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I do feel like that was the case with regard to promo work.
Absolutely. Promo work, animation.
Okay. Yeah.
So
animation
I'm
is still the
speaking
same. Yeah.
commercially, but I just remember this was 1989. I can't believe it.
Yeah.
But my voiceover talent, they worked every hour on the hour all day. Their 9 o'clock job, their 10 o'clock job, and they were doing Class A network national spots and making big livings. I mean, people were moving here. Like they would come here to perform at the Guthrie Theater and they'd be like, oh my God, actors own houses here, and they would stay, or they would be here to like go to Hazleton.
Right.
And they would stay. So, we had the Guthrie people and the Hazleton people like staying in Minneapolis who were LA and New York talent because they could have this amazing life, doing voiceover.
Were you a talent agent in Minneapolis or were you a talent agent?
I was.
Oh, you were in Minneapolis?
No, so I started in Minneapolis. So it was, Campbell Methune was huge.
Wow.
And Fallon had, the BMW campaign.
Sure,
it was huge. Carmichael Lynch, the Hormel work. It was a really great time. And then I moved to LA and started working at CESD, straight from Minneapolis.
All right. My story of you starts at CESD in Los Angeles. So I guess you had a life before you came here.
Well, no, I was like an obsessive young talent agent, hustling to get the attention to, get to Los Angeles. Yeah.
Oh,
that's my early days and where I got really great training and great optimism about what is possible in a voiceover career.
Walk us through a typical day for Celia Siegel Management.
Well, there's typical days. So
right. There's really nothing typical about a day.
If you go to my website, is a really nice overview of all of the things I do. It's CeliaSiegel.com.
CeliaSiegel.com. Okay, great.
So on there, I have, my branding section of the business and then my marketing section of the business.
Okay.
So basically, when I start working with a client, and you and I have worked together in the past, so many things have grown since then. Many things remain the same. So I began with working with my team and my new client to create a brand, a personal brand, because it's such an important way in all businesses for us to stand out and kind of claim our territory in the marketplace.
Right.
Do what we need to do. So we start with the personal brand and then build out all of the collateral material around that. We do a really pretty thorough business plan. So where's your business now? Where do you want to be? And we walk out the steps in between. And then we do a big brand launch when the materials are ready. And then my team goes into action looking at that business plan because it's different for each and every one of you.
Right.
And so what are those goals and how are we going to make them happen? And then we move into marketing. So there's 6 of us on my team.
Oh,
and I've got
people
who create. I've grown. Yes. So I've got people who do like my e-marketing, my strategy. I have a woman who's an amazing salesperson who does actual cold calling, very appropriate professional cold calling to the people who click open your demo. So we're like, okay, these people keep looking at you, Kay. Let's go see what they've got going on. So trying to form that relationship.
Cold calling. I haven't heard that phrase in a really long time.
Right.
That's great. Old school. Celia, you're going old school. New school,
sales.
Old school. That's great.
Well, no, it's the blend. And it's about relationships. So I don't want to cold call personally. It's I think we should all stay in our zone of genius and do what we're good at. I'd be miserable if I had to do that all day. I'm great on, warm relationships, but I have this person who's great at figuring out who has a lot of bookings going on. And, really any manager that you work with is picking up the phone and calling people.
Sure.
So I wouldn't say it's like icy cold calling, but we're just always forming relationships and connecting. So I'm in meetings. I do strategy meetings once a week with all of my clients, just making sure we're staying on track with their goals, making the money they want to make, having the agent relationships they want to have, connecting with the companies they want to work for.
Okay.
So I'm on calls with talent, with my clients, as well as creating brands and marketing. So it's busy.
Yeah.
It's a lot, but
How
it's all
many
my favorite stuff.
how many clients are in your roster at any given time?
Around 20, 20-ish, 25.
Okay.
So
It's a good manageable
new,
stable.
yeah, no, it's really, yeah, I love, just being a sort of success strategist with a small pool of people.
Yeah.
And then at any given time, as far as taking on new branding clients, I can only do, a couple at a time,
Sure.
so that
Yeah.
sometimes that's kind of a slow process,
Yeah.
or like a very time intensive process. So I don't have that many actual branding clients where we're creating a brand at any given time. I'm
Right.
just working on a few.
So you mentioned the fact that you have children. You have two beautiful daughters. You're
I
a single
do.
mom. And so how do you manage such a full personal plate
Ha ha ha.
with owning and running your own business as well?
Yeah, I guess I left that out of my, if I go back to the day in the life of, I mean, I get up and I, make pancakes and pack a healthy
Right,
lunch
all those
and
things, right.
and drag teenagers out of bed and braid hair and laugh and joke around with my kids and then boom, I go right to work after
Yeah.
that. So
They're out the door and you get to work.
they're out the door and I click on my other hat and
Yeah.
yeah, it's intense, but I have to tell you, and I think, other moms out there listening, I've heard this a lot from mothers and yeah, I'll be interested to see if you agree with this, but I feel like I have such a more creative business because I had to. Like if I hadn't had children, I would still be a talent agent in LA.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
I opened Celia Siegel Management so I could have it all. And I do great work for my clients because I want to be successful for my kids and I want to have flexibility. And so I just made this up. I just like picked all my favorite things that I was like into doing every day and took the leap of faith. And I
Yeah.
think had I not had to be innovative, I would be doing something, like safer, like working for somebody else for their talent agency.
Right.
Um, you know,
Kids for sure they stretch you and ask of you more than you realized that you could give. I mean, in terms of
totally.
not only just being a parent in and of itself, but also just how do you keep your creative sensibilities and your you know, uh, I hope this comes out right, but sort of a separate identity, right? That's yours that
Hmm.
isn't completely attached to your children. I love my
Totally.
identity attached to my daughter. I love that part. So I don't mean that in any sort of
No, not at all. Like I never
diminishing
talk
way,
about my
but
kids at work. Like
yeah,
I have for the last 16 years, I don't make my kids anybody else's problem. Like
right.
that's my wonderful family life. So I have just set things up and gotten the support. Like they had a nanny when my business was little and they were little because I
Yeah.
knew I had to, put the time into this, so I have really compartmentalized where I have my work hours and my kid hours.
Sure, yeah.
And
And I think you do what is right both for you and for your kids, and your kids sort of determine they tell you what they need.
they sure do. And
Right? And
I have a lot of clients who have kids and they're like kind of freaking out because they've got a 3-year old and oh my gosh, I don't have enough time to audition and my business is sinking. And it's like you have to think of it long term.
yeah,
Do what
exactly.
you need
Yeah.
to do to build your business, to have great integrity, to consider this, a marathon, not a sprint.
Right.
And it all comes together,
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I wish I would have had some mentors who were successful businesswomen with teenagers, or I wish I would have listened to them more when my kids were teeny tiny,
Yeah.
because you're really in the woods. And I used to
Oh,
call
so
mine
in the woods.
lovingly, I would call them my little career killers because here I couldn't really be a talent agent anymore. I mean, I tried to take my, they built a booth. They used an old booth in my office and built like a baby nursery for my firstborn so that I could come to work full time.
Wow. Was this
And
at
I was like,
where was this?
this was at JE Talent in
Okay.
San
Oh, yes.
Francisco.
Yes, sure. Yeah.
They were like, come on back. And I was like, that's great. Thank you. And we'll put my baby behind glass. I can see her
No.
if she
Yeah.
cries, but we
Right.
can't hear
Can't
her if
hear
I'm on the
her.
phone with clients, but I'll, quietly get off the phone and go help her. Well, it was a disaster, of course, taking
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know, she was maybe 3 months or 6 months old. 3 months. She was 3 months old. And I was like, I'm a poor mother and a poor agent. And
Yeah.
that's
Oh.
when I kind of peeled off and started my management company. And I would jokingly call my children my career killers, but really they were the fertilizer for this awesome adventure I was going to lead in my career.
That's amazing. I'll tell you, when my daughter was, I don't know, between 4 and 6 months old, I just tanked with postpartum depression.
Oh,
And I also, at the time, I also happened to have gotten vertigo. It was crazy. So I became really terrified to leave the house, like with my daughter. Like, what happens if I'm driving with my daughter and I start to get, an episode of vertigo, and and I can't stay on the road. I was so freaked out.
okay.
And I remember calling Rita Venari at Sutton Barth and Venari, where I was represented at the time, and I said, Rita, I can't come in. I can't. And this was really before there were home studios and stuff. So,
Right.
and God bless her, she said, Kay, you do what you need to do. We are here. And I want to say I took 6 months off of auditioning, and I thought my career was over, like I would never work again. And because I wasn't auditioning for about 6 months, it certainly took some time to ramp it back up, because you're sort of working at the things you auditioned for several months ago.
Right.
But I survived. You survive. I think you do what you have to do to take care of your children and make sure that you can, you just take care of what's in front of you at the time. And your career is not dependent upon a 3-month period of time.
It is just not, even
Yeah.
though it feels like that at
Yeah.
the time.
Yeah.
But it's not.
Yeah, it's
So-
not. You just do what you got to do, right? We have a lot on our plates, and sometimes your career is calling, and sometimes your children are calling. So it's a part of being a female in the business, right? In any
Exactly.
business.
No, it's true.
But this leads me to this fascination that I have of people's most difficult moments or their perceived failures, and how we tend to be initially derailed by those things, but which I have come to understand are essential to our success. And so I'm curious if you can tell me about a pivotal moment in your career where you thought, I either do this or I'm done, or some kind of difficult turning point, the upshot of which really set you on a path to where you are now and to your success.
The thing that pops to mind, first of all, and I totally agree with you that, our challenges, wow, we become powerful when we kind of, run the gauntlet.
Right.
In 2013, almost exactly 4 years ago this month,
Mm-hmm.
God, it was probably right around this date 4 years ago, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And I was like, wait a minute, I'm a single mom and my business is me. I can't have breast cancer. I mean, I just freaked out. I was like, this is my worst nightmare.
Yeah.
Of course, like anybody would hearing news like that.
Of course.
And I went off the rails. I mean, I was just like, my doctors were like, you need to take some serious time off. And I was like, but I can't. And they're like,
Right.
yeah, well, if you die, it won't really matter that you like kept your business up in the air,
Right. Right.
So I really had to take a sabbatical. And at the time, my business was just me and my awesome writer, Marnie Lee. So it was just the two of us, cranking it out, writing brands, building careers. Like we were just doing great.
Yeah.
So here I turn up with breast cancer. Well, Marnie, bless her, she had been asking me for years, do you think I should have a baby? And I'm like, oh, dude, I cannot answer that for you. And every year this would kind of come up. And she was like, yeah, I've got such great nieces and nephews. And so finally she asked me this particular year, gosh, I don't know, I'm so on the fence. And I was like, sister, if you're going to do it, you better do it now. Tick, tick, tick.
Yes, that's
So
a reality too.
here Marnie was, 39 years old, having her first baby. Well, my double mastectomy was scheduled the same week as her due date.
Oh my God, Celia.
Entirety of Celia Siegel Management. And now we laugh until we cry about it.
Sure.
But the entire life force behind our little business that we built with such heart and soul, we were like down for the count.
Wow.
And I was like,
I'm speechless.
So then the night before I had to go to the hospital, I was like, I just want to get this over with. I'm going to get this out. I'm going to be healthy. I was optimistic, that I was going to kick this thing. So the night before I I never take time off from work. So I didn't even know how to use my autoresponder on my email system at the time. Yeah. And it was all like wonky and they were all forwarding to each other. And so the night before I was like, listening to my doctors and they're like, you need to just don't even talk to a client for, I forget how long they said. It felt like, 10 years. And so I set this autoresponder and I was like, due to, it made it real, neutral.
Yeah.
And I hit go and my system, the way it was looped in, it sent an autoresponder to everybody who had ever emailed me ever in their entire life. So my clients who email me 5 times a day, they were getting like hundreds of autoresponders in their inbox. Okay. So all these people showed up at my house. I had like 20 of my best friends and my mother was here and everyone's like cheering me on to go be brave and do this like badass medical procedure. And I'm like, I'm going to do this. Well, then my autoresponder starts going off to everybody in the world, the agents I talked to,
Celia.
All my clients from the past. I don't know if you got, millions of autoresponders on like, it was like on May 4th, 2013, autoresponder. And I was like, oh my God, I'm good. And I was like, somebody, and I promise not to swear on your show, the F-bomb, fix this. So then my neighbor, who's a techie guy, he comes over and he was like, okay, I'm going to fix your autoresponder. And he like sent a test to himself, just to him. And he was like, everybody leave me alone. To him. Well, so then everybody in my neighborhood, I live in this pretty buttoned up neighborhood, green grass, intact families.
Yeah.
And my book club is on the block. Well, his name is on the book club. So everybody in my neighborhood, like block party book club, they get this email from me that says, just leave me alone. Okay. So everyone in the neighborhood is like, what's up with Celia? And I'm like, I'm having a double mastectomy tomorrow. So anyway, I just thought for sure I was going to completely go out of business. It was bad. Marty's giving birth. I'm in the hospital.
Wow.
So
talk about,
that was my down and out. And it was not funny at the time. I could not see the humor in it. It was very scary. Like I don't mess up like that, so.
Well, and you're also, you're such a forward-looking doer. You don't sit and dwell on difficult things.
Yeah, it was rough. It was pretty rough. But the flip side, which is what you had asked about, earlier when I mentioned my team here, you were like, wow, you've grown.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, yes, I have. And why have I grown? Well, because when Marty and I were both totally down for the count with like toddlers and, cancer fighting.
Yeah.
I hired somebody to do e-marketing for me. I hired an incredible business strategist who like helps me with the guts of my business. I hired a full-time QuickBooks person. I hired,
wow, I would love.
I ramped up a really great sales team. So all of this stuff I was doing on my own with just Marnie and I, well, now I have experts filling those roles.
Born of necessity.
It was born of necessity. Well, I kind of took time off. Then I was like, wow, I'm keeping everybody around because they're amazing. And now we can serve our awesome clients better. And that would not have happened so quickly anyway, had I not faced adversity and needed to reinvent a little bit.
Wow, if that isn't just proof, that adversity is, man, it is a Kickstarter.
It is a Kickstarter, and bonus round on all of that is, and this hasn't gone away. I was like, oh, I hope this doesn't fade away. But my gratitude for life, and just like when I have a client meeting, I'm like, I am so incredibly lucky that I met this person and I get to do this great business with them. And I am lucky to be alive. And, oh, I have to drive across town to drive my daughter to her volleyball tournament. Wow, I am lucky to have this healthy child who loves volleyball. And you know what I mean? Like, it really, I think, permanently put me on the path of extreme gratitude, which, of course,
that's
helps every relationship.
Yes.
Yeah. So that was a really long answer to your
it's a great answer. And I thank you for sharing something so very personal. Here's the thing, my experience has been, the more personal the story, the deeper and further the outreach to people who, people are dealing with these things. They're dealing with cancer. They're dealing with sickness. They're dealing with depression, postpartum depression. What do I do with my kids? It's exactly. It's a human experience.
And if we don't admit it, like that's so brave of you to talk about that, because so many people deal with that. And it's so very disruptive and very real. And if everybody keeps it a secret, you just think you're a total freak.
Exactly. And we're not freaks. We're not freaks. Humans
we're
trying
freaks
to be
in a good way.
Right. Wow.
Totally. Yeah.
That's amazing. Tell me, what do you look for when you evaluate whether you're going to work with a particular talent as a manager?
It's interesting, after having done this for so many years, and even when I think back to being a talent agent, whose careers I would really be able to take from, zero to, to the moon. And there really is a certain type, and I'm really fascinated with that. Like, what are the common denominators of success? And so I look for those things, those traits that I see in people that really enable them to set a goal and achieve it. Mm-hmm. So I do have kind of an ideal customer avatar, prototype of when I see it out of the corner of my eye or I hear it, I know that I'd be a great manager for that person or, brand creator, strategist. And it tends to be, of course, people who are wildly talented. I mean, that's a first. So talent is amazing and interesting. And then I call it the new voiceover career, based on what has happened in business in the last 10 years. People need to be killer business people as well as, incredibly talented. So people who have that double superpower, those are the ones that capture my attention. The ones who are willing to go the extra mile to create just a really mind-blowing, package and personal brand and work hard and figure out their business plan and actually do what they know they need to do. Like those people are so much fun for me. And we can be like, okay, we're here, and here's your monetary goals and here's the goals of what type of work you want to be doing. And so people I know I can make that happen for or make that happen with. Or to rephrase again, they're making it happen for themselves and I'm assisting,
Right. That's it. That's a huge distinction, I think. Yeah. I think it's an old model, this notion that agents or managers do for you and you follow along. It's really, that's not how it works. Yeah.
It's collaboration.
It's collaborative. Yeah.
So, I mean, that is just so much fun. I mean, what could be more fun than that? So those are the people who I get like, I jump up and down when I'm like, yes, I get to work with this person. And I do. I'm fascinated by and love, watching careers build and personalities. And, you guys are your product, know.
Yes.
So,
we are.
So it's all out there, as you get to know people, you get to know their, what they're selling. And how good they are at making that sale happen.
Yeah. I would imagine too, I knew you hit on this, but it's it's the willingness to participate in your own career. I mean, I don't know anything about business per se. And so, but I'm constantly looking at people who are successful and saying, what are they doing that I'm not doing, that I don't quite understand? And then I look to see, and then I think, how can I do that as I would do it, and put it to use, in my own career. And so there's a willingness, even though I don't have those intrinsic, traits of being a sort of a kick-ass business person. I just feel like I'm a floaty little artist out there, kind of like, oh, somebody just let me sing, and that doesn't really, I mean, that's a good start, but that's, so I think it's, and I know for me, that's been a career-long lesson, to, moving from, well, I have an agent, and so now they're just going to do stuff for me, to getting to the point where you say to your agents, here's what I'm doing. Let's work together, to make this happen, or with a manager, right? It's a willingness to take the reins of your own career. And it costs, you have to be willing to invest not just your money, but your time and your effort. And
absolutely.
Yeah. So I think more than, as you say, this having a business sense, it's like a willingness to acquire a business sense, right?
Right. Like you don't need to have your MBA, but I love that flexibility, that, are you willing to learn? Are you a lifelong learner? I mean, that's on that list of common denominators of like just being willing to learn. And, I had somebody recently, I was like, you're really great, but if you want to do what you say you want to do, you need to coach with the people who are coaching the people who are doing that.
Right.
And they were like, well, I've been doing this for X amount of years. And I was like, oh, no, you're not my ideal customer avatar, because that's just being so shut down and unwilling.
Right.
I mean, most people don't do that anymore, but it's that willingness to learn, and also be a powerful enough artist that just because you're studying with, an awesome coach, or, working on your brand with somebody who has an opinion, like you have to protect your uniqueness as well. So you have to have the wisdom to say, wow, I love what this coach taught me, and I'm going to take this piece of it, but the other doesn't fit with my learning style, and I'm not going to beat myself up about it. I'm going to express myself and, find another coach if need be. Like you need to protect, your uniqueness.
Yes. That is a great point. We are coming to the end of our time together, but I want to play a game.
I love games.
Well, this is now affectionately known as Beehive Roulette. So what I'm going to do is I have a list of 50 questions, and you're going to answer 10 of them, and you just need to pick a number. So you'll be picking your questions, even though you don't know what the questions will be. You'll tell me a number, and I will read the question associated with the numbers that you give me. So
sounds fun.
Beehive Roulette, ladies and gentlemen, with Celia Siegel. Okay, pick a number.
6.
Are you more like your mother or your father?
Haha.
Let's get into the deep stuff now.
I feel so 50-50. My dad's an economist and my mom is a social worker. I really feel half and half.
That's great.
My mom's super social. I got that from my mom.
Fantastic.
So 50-50.
50-50. All right. Next number.
22.
What's the last thing you ate?
I ate a Wella bar with my iced coffee this morning.
Wella bar. What flavor?
It's so good. It was some peanut butter honey flavor. It's in the refrigerated section at Costco. Delicious.
Yummy. Okay, next number.
48.
When and where were you born?
Galesburg, Illinois, 1966.
Right on. Next number.
Oh,
you're a
99.
Midwestern girl. No, there's no 99. It only goes to 50.
Oh, no, it goes to 50.
It only goes to 50.
Okay, make one up. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, three.
When did you last cry?
Gosh, probably yesterday. Like I cry. Gosh, yeah, I was thinking of something poignant yesterday, so it was one of those Hallmark cries.
Okay, it's a Hallmark cry yesterday. Okay, next number.
Number one.
Were you named after anyone?
I was. I was named after my mother's best friend, Celia Barton, because my mother, whose name is Alberta, said that Celia, her best friend, was the only woman she had ever met who really liked her name.
Oh, that's so great. Okay,
Number 12.
number 12. Do you like stinky cheese?
I do.
Is there any particular stinky cheese that you like?
Bring it on. I guess I'm not that much of a connoisseur, but I tend to like interesting and stinky cheeses.
Like blue cheese,
I love
Stilton.
blue cheese.
All right.
I love
Gorgonzola.
Gorgonzola. Yeah, that indeed. I'm in. Count me in.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay, next.
Oh, there's more.
Oh, yeah, you have 5 more questions.
Oh gosh. Okay. 4.
Do you like your handwriting?
I hate my handwriting. I was actually just saying to somebody yesterday who was handwriting her follow-up postcards for something, going old school, doing thank you notes.
Wow.
And I
impressive.
said, send me a picture of your handwriting because that's part of your brand. So I have to, if I were going to do something, I'd have to hire somebody because mine is the handwriting of a creative.
Okay, next.
17.
Do you think you are strong?
Yes, I definitely consider myself strong,
Great.
both physically and mentally, because of stuff we've talked about in this
Yeah.
interview.
Yeah. Resilient. Yeah.
Let's see.
Next.
13.
How many push-ups can you do? Speaking of strength.
Uh-huh. I'm a big yogini, so
Okay.
I haven't counted, but if from my knees or tiptoes.
Which I think they're both valid push-ups. So one is just modified, that's all.
I could probably comfortably do 25 really well-formed push-ups and more than that if I could get a little floppy on it.
Got it. Okay. You are strong. That's great. Okay, next.
46.
Rolling Stones or the Beatles?
Rolling Stones. I love the Beatles too.
I know. That's
Rolling
a hard
Stones.
one. Yeah. Okay, you have 2 more.
5.
What's your favorite lunch meat? Celia?
I would probably never eat a lunch meat.
All right.
So, my favorite lunch meat is a vegetable, probably.
Okay. Celia Siegel's favorite lunch meat is a vegetable.
Or like
That's
a
great.
salmon. Like I would have salmon
okay,
for lunch
salmon.
if I wanted something meaty, but
Yeah.
that's not really a lunch meat. But okay, so last
more.
but not least, how
Yeah.
about number 9? Speaking of the Beatles.
Are you cynical?
I don't have a cynical bone in my body. And I know it's really hip to be cynical, but I have this one client who's brilliant and he's so cynical. And I'm always like, I don't understand what you're saying.
Yeah, I think to not be cynical is a beautiful thing in this world because, man, there's a lot of cynicism.
I know, and it's
so
so like, I mean, some of it is so dang funny.
I
Like, I
know.
read The Onion, and I'm like, I have to
Oh.
just take a minute. I'm like, I don't understand. And it
great.
is funny, but it's like, it's funny the second time through for me because I have to kind of translate it through my optimism. So,
Well, I just think that is that's a fantastic statement about you. You are a happy, optimistic, wonderful soul who does great work for all kinds of voice actors. It's really, really fantastic. So I have one last question for you that's of my choice. And that question is, if heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say to you when you arrive at the pearly gates?
you finally get to live in the intentional community with all of the people you want to live with. Let's throw a party.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you, Celia Siegel. And I want to.
Thank you, K-Bass.
Oh, such a pleasure to have you here. I want to spell your name for everyone in case they're driving and need to get that image in their head. So it's Celia, Celia, Siegel, S-I-E?
S-I-E.
S-I-E-G-E-L.
S-I-E-G-E-L. That's it.
Okay. CeliaSiegel.com.
Yeah.
And so is there any other place that people can find you aside from your website, CeliaSiegel.com?
That's the best place. And I do a marketing tips newsletter once a month. If you want to get on that list, you can sign up on my website.
And are you on Twitter? You tweet fabulous.
Yeah, I tweet. I love Twitter. Yes. So at Celia Siegel on Twitter. I'm on Pinterest with brand inspiration.
Oh, that's fantastic.
LinkedIn. So yeah, you can find me all kinds of fun places. And I also do free 15-minute brand consultations or career consultations or anything. If you want to get to know me and pop on the phone with me, there's a place to do that on my website as well. I have a contact form.
That is fantastic. Thank you so much, Celia.
Thank you, K-Bass, for doing this amazing podcast.
Thank you. It's so fun. Just like you, I love this business and I love talking to people about it. It's just, it's a joy to me. So
yes.
Excellent.
Ditto. Yes,
all right,
I can
sweetheart.
tell.
Good. I'm so
fabulous.
glad.
And thanks again for having me. This has been really fun.
Thanks for joining me today in the Beehive. For podcast notes, pictures, and more information on my guests, visit the podcast website, thebeehivepodcast.com. Find me at my website, kbess.com. Follow me on Twitter at kbess, and subscribe to my channel on YouTube. If you've a mind to, please post a review of the podcast on iTunes. Kind words are like honey, sweet to the soul and good for the bones. Come back for more Women in Voiceover next time in the Beehive.